All right, and we are back this week with another episode of That Scale RC Show. I'm your host, Adam Dean, with our co-host. That
Jeremy.
that's your cue, man.
Just Jeremy.
Just Jeremy.
I was waiting to see if you were gonna say my name or if I needed to say it. So,
Uh,
howdy everybody. Hope everyone's had a good week, and I hope everybody's got some plans to get out and enjoy some trails or whatever it is you're into this weekend. So,
Man, it's actually funny that you bring that up. I don't know how it is up there for you, but or down here, we've actually had a break in the weather. Last weekend was kind of gloomy, but we only got a little bit of drizzle late Sunday. But it actually this whole week's been sunny, and I believe this weekend's going to be another sunny weekend. So it's going to look good. How's it been for you?
it's been rad. It was like summer at the last comp that we had and stuff. It has been beautiful, but then now it's like rain and everything. So it's, I don't know. It's usually kind of like this until mid May, I think, and then it ends up being pretty much sunny clear through to like September, October. So for the time being, it kind of sucks, but it's supposed to clear up by the weekend and be about 65. So hopefully there'll be some decent weather for people to get out and have some fun. So
Yeah, we've
it's just around the corner.
yeah we've had the same kind of deal. It's been about the mid 60s, and sometimes stand in the sun. It feels closer to like 80s, but I know
Yeah.
everybody's going to be saying because we've actually had a winter this year that it's going to be nice to actually have, I guess, warm, decent weather. But everybody usually always says the opposite. Once it's summer, oh, I can't wait for winter to be here. And then when winter's here and we have a winter like we had this year, oh, I can't wait to the warm weather, no more rain,
It's
snow.
like no one's ever happy.
So, which honestly, for a lot of things, I don't know about you, but like for me, even in like the RC stuff, I prefer mild weather. I'd rather it be like 50s or even like 40s and go out crawling than it be
Yep.
80s, 90s, hundreds. I mean, because where we crawl,
Oh yeah.
it could be warm. It could be up to like 100 degrees, and it's just I don't know. It's not that fun at that point, so that's why I'm
Here
just.
it gets to be like low 90s and stuff in the summertime, but I don't know, like most of the winter is 30s to 40s. Like I said, this weekend's supposed to get up to 65. I don't know. Washington's weird. It's just kind of all over the place for the most part. But I don't know. It's funny. I was, when you were talking about how it's like, oh, I can't wait for summer. And then summer's like, oh, I can't wait for winter. With racing and stuff, my kid and I are always having this conversation too. It's like winter is indoor race season, and like by the time you get to the tail end of indoor, you're like, man, I can't wait for outdoors. And then when you're racing outdoors, towards the tail end of that, you're kind of starting to get sick of it, and you're like, man, I can't wait till we're indoors again. And it's like you're just never happy at all.
Yeah,
But no, up here, like if it's like 70 or less, I'm pretty happy. Like that's kind of my comfort zone for.
yeah. I would say I think that's optimal crawling weather. So,
Yeah, I
um,
don't like sweating. I don't like getting sunburnt. It's just
yeah,
take takes kind of the fun out of it.
yeah. No, I know what you mean. So yeah, so let's see. I have some interesting stuff on the bench. I actually started assembling my China Hardbody JK. I posted that up on our page on Facebook.
Yeah, I
Uh,
saw that.
it's a slow build. I wish it would have been done a lot faster, but the weather did actually play a part of that because I don't like painting indoors because it just fumigates everything.
Oh yeah.
And I've also learned from past experience that if you paint inside, sometimes you get like little fine overspray on other stuff. Like I pick stuff up and go, why? Why is there why is there like this little silver specks on it? And it's like, oh, I was spraying silver underneath on this body, and you're like, oh, and then you're trying to get it off stuff. So I just kind of learned don't paint inside, paint outside. So with the weather being the way it is, it makes it kind of difficult. And then also just with everything else going on and time and life and other builds, just kind of you know let it sit on the back burner. But it's getting progress, and it's now finally put together. And I actually grafted a Night Customs hood onto that. So that actually had just a normal flat JK hood, like nothing fancy. And I actually cut out the part where the Stingray hood kind of dips down so it would sit more flat. And then I glued it on there, and then I sanded it to kind of feather it out to the same thickness as the hood. Then a little bit of Bondo magic, some more sanding, and I'm actually really happy with the way it turned out. So that's like,
Nice.
yeah, it's one of those. Ever since Michelle got her Jeep, um, it's like now I've kind of have a soft spot for Jeeps. I'm like a hardcore Chevy fan at heart, and so when she got hers, it started opening my eyes to seeing, paying attention to more Jeep builds and what people are doing in the one-to-one world with Jeeps and stuff. So um, I've now it's kind of like that's my outlet to say, hey, if I had a Jeep, this is how I would do it. So
Yeah.
that's what that build's going towards. So it's pretty cool. It's got the flat fenders and that body armor that Helio fabricated. So that's put to use. What else? That's the one I'm doing my custom forward motor mount setup. So never done a individual or divorce transfer case kind of setup before with a motor forward. So uh, hoping to get that thing at least up and running in the next couple weeks. So
Whose kit is that? That is the front motor? Is this something that you kind of
it's
came up with on
it's
your own, or?
honestly, I'm trying to kind of copy what Elio did on his. Because once I saw his, I thought it was pretty cool. So he kind of just said, "Hey, this is everything I'm using. So have at it." So basically, uh, it's an RC four wheel drive. I forget what the actual gearbox is called. I forget what it's called. It's a black thing. I want to say it's like not a destroyer. It's some weird. It's almost like one of those names though, like destroyer or something like that. But it's this black can, and the motor actually you put the supplied pinion on it, and it actually mounts inside of that, and so it's like all one long unit, and then and
Whoa.
yeah, so that transmission, gearbox is supposed to reduce it to some crazy amount. I forget what it is. Um, and then you put the transmission or the drive shaft from the back of that down to the transfer case, which I know for a fact I'm using the RC4 Drive Hammer transfer case. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and then that just goes down just like usual. So what I did, being that that's an SCX-10 platform, I took a piece of thick Lexan and I traced the bottom of the transfer case, made an adapter plate, and then I just screwed that down to the stock area the um, where the transfer case goes, and then that way it's nice and secure. And then that's about it. So the front is actually kind of like I call it my primitive Pete. It's just two pieces of L metal that I made that are just welded to the chassis. So it holds it kind of like right where you need it to be, and that's all there is to it. There's nothing fancy about it. It's kind of
Oh wow.
homemade with parts, and like I said, the first time I saw Elio run it on his, and I saw how slow it crawls and how it's just a crawling machine. It's not meant for like any kind of wheel speed. It's like super slow. So I was like,
Hmm.
I want to try that because it's just a beast. I mean, he crawls up some stuff I couldn't believe. So I said, okay, I want to try my hand at this. So I just basically took everything that he used and applied it myself. So
That's pretty cool.
yeah,
SSD has a really cool forward motor setup with that like scale transmission and everything. That thing's pretty cool. I've always wanted to check one of those out, but at the same time, like I don't know. I mean, I don't really have too many rigs that I would switch around, for that reason. Just because I don't really run hard bodies or anything. Like I think out of the ones that I have, the Venture would probably be the easiest one, being forward motor and like the middle of the thing's just empty. But I saw a really cool setup. I can't remember if I told you about this or not the other day, but one of the guys from our club, my buddy Jared, he just got one of the Cross Demons, and the one he got came with hard body, the truggy bed, aluminum wheels, but he got plastic axles because around here just aluminum just gets hung up on everything. And so yeah, he's got that. And dude, I tell you what, that has one of the smartest looking motor and transfer case setups that I've seen. Like the motor is angled, but it's also tucked down super super low, and then it has this little bitty transfer case in the middle of it. And man, there's just tons of room for the hard body. Like the hard body that came with it, it has like a trans hump and everything, and like it molds around it so perfectly that like we had to get really really creative with our wire routing and stuff. But it was funny, it ended up being like the absolute like best wiring job I've ever done on an RC car, you know, out of like anything, whether it's like race cars or crawlers or anything. Like super clean, and we put all of it in that kind of mesh wire loom that you heat shrink the ends, and then stuffed all the wires in this inside the C channel so that you can't see it. Like I should have took pictures of the inside of it when we were here with the body off, because I had taken just some exterior shots for him since it was like new build and he spent a bunch of time painting it. Like he did a really cool like matte olive drab green with like a kind of coyote tan stripe through it, and it turned out just sick looking. But I did like some exterior like glamour shots for him with our little like backdrop kind of light box setup that we have here, and that I did like product photos and stuff on. But dude, that Cross is like it. I mean, granted, they're kind of expensive. I mean, well, I guess now with like some of the rigs are kind of middle of the road at like I think around 450 to $500. But dude, like the shocks were nice. The wheels were phenomenal. Like the wheels, I would like buy to run on something else. Like they look super super good. The tires were kind of like a fake pit bull meets swamper kind of abomination. Like compound's probably a little bit stiff for them to be all that good, but I mean for the most part like everything was super nice. Tons of metal parts on it, like just really really solid. It was laid out smart. You like open the hood and there's a and a mock panel that sits on top of everything that looks like a motor and stuff, and it's even got like a little hood support. I mean, it was such an awesome, just super detailed little rig. And like I saw that they come with LEDs, and I was kind of like, you know, it's probably going to be something kind of hokey like what you get with like RTRs and stuff. But man, it was like, it was so cool. The controller for the LEDs and everything was actually mounted to, so you had like the printed circuit board with the LED on it and the light controller and everything, and then you have a little pigtail from the taillights that plug into it. And the taillight was really cool too. It actually has one taillight, and it's like a third brake light, but it's like tucked down low under the truggy bed, and it looks perfect. And like it had a big like crate in the back of it that we ended up putting like his BEC and running a battery connector up to. And I mean it's just a cool rig. Like honestly, if I had like $500 to just blow on something that is, you know, and I wanted something different that nobody else really has, at least around here, you know, because it's not a super popular rig, I would probably check one of those out. Like had really good steering angle. I mean, it was a very very cool truck. And I mean, I've heard like Cross has like really nice, like their military style vehicles are pretty sick. But dude, the crawler one was just, I mean, the only weird part is it doesn't really have like a skid. It has brackets for the lower links, and so they actually like, it's almost like the where the links mount are tabbed and hang down below the frame rather than having it go onto a skid. So I'm kind of wondering if it's going to get hung up, but it really wouldn't be a big deal to like 3D print a skid to just make that area flat and kind of smooth it all out. But that was really the only like questionable thing that I saw. I mean, it had aluminum shocks. I mean, just everything was super nice. But that was a really really cool build. And like the drivetrain on it was just sick. It was one of the cooler rigs that I've seen. So that's something that's kind of definitely on my radar. And then the other one that I want to check out too is that, and I saw James Knight's working on it, is the Charisma, the Range Rover.
Oh, okay. I
I don't know
haven't.
if you've seen.
I don't think I've seen that one yet.
It's not a Discovery. I think it's an actual like Range Rover body, like early '90s one. I don't know if it's been released yet. I know I've seen it on. I've been kind of watching it on A Main. Like the price point's pretty good for an RTR. It's kind of like right in there with everything else. But looks like James Knight's painting his like yellow and doing like the camel trophy type theme to it, and it's. I'm curious to see what he does with it because I think it's gonna end up being really neat looking. But that's another one I was kind of checking out because it'd be kind of neat to have something different than what everybody else has. I mean, that's why I've been looking like the Charisma and the MST, but I don't know. It's just cool seeing like viable options out there, like really well built rigs that people don't really know about that are honestly in some areas like nicer than what some of the mainstream stuff is that people have been running lately. So pretty neat.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was taking a water break there.
Oh, it's okay.
So
So, yeah. Well, I know last week we were talking about the events and what rigs we run and whatnot, and the ins and outs of what we're running. Um, we never got to like kind of like finish that conversation. We never really got to talk about our gear that we actually physically bring to one of those events.
oh
So
yeah.
so you want to start off? Or you want me to start off on what we bring to the event?
No, go for it. I'm kind of curious to see what all you pack around.
Well, mine's actually kind of like not your, I guess, normal. I mean, I know most people are like, "Well, what do you mean? How much stuff do you have to bring?" I just bring a backpack, some snacks, water, maybe a couple tools, and batteries, and I just go. I try to be a little more prepared than that because I've been at this for 6, 7 years now, and I've seen almost every kind of single break you could possibly have on the trail, and some of them are easier than others. I mean, you got your basic ones where, all right, your wheel nut isn't tightened down and it falls off. Okay, you just grab your wheel wrench if you brought one with you, and tighten it back up and keep going. I've even seen ones where people completely snap the axle housing right around the C hub, and we've seen people jerry rig like take a piece of plastic or metal or something that they have extra laying in their backpack, and they screw it together like make like a crutch kind of homemade cast kind of thing, and they
Mm-hmm.
they continue the they continue the event or the course. So my setup currently is, I think it's a 511 day pack backpack, and I went that route just because I guess you could say I'm your stereotypical guy. I like more options. I like the most amount of options you can get. So for my needs, that backpack actually had the most storage without being too big that it looked like you were carrying something or wearing something that you would like, scale Mount Everest with. So I went that route, and basically I have my little tool pouch that has all my basic wrenches in there, all my hex drivers, and it's pretty much tailored to what I run. So like all my hardware is metric, so it's all metric drivers. I have a wheel nut wrench. I even threw in, just in case, the little T handle hex wrench thingy that like ready to run kits provide.
Mm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
have one of those in there. I got some Loctite, and then the latest thing I have, which is pretty cool, and I worked this one up with Heath Meshkow of Cow RC, was he sells these little boxes, and they're called dot boxes, and they're pretty cool. I opted for this really shallow one, like it's a really tiny footprint. Like I want to say it's like 9 by 11, if that. Um, probably, yeah, probably close to a piece of standard paper, and it's maybe an inch thick, inch and a half at the max, and it's got a bunch of little storage options inside. And CowRC being, you know, kind of known for their maintenance products and their pit mats and stuff, he actually, I had talked to him and I got a little chunk of magnetic mat, and I even got a little piece of magnetic mat that he put the little foam divider on it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty cool. So like you break down on the trail now, I just whip that out. I could pull the magnetic parts out because I've seen this happen before too. You try to fix something and then you set your screws down or your nuts or your parts or whatever it is in the dirt or on a rock, and it rolls off, and now you're hunting through the leaves and everything trying to find it. This way all my stuff sticks right to it, to the magnets, and then it kind of keeps me a little more organized when you're doing a trail repair. And I keep a little bit of everything in there: bearings, extra wheel nuts, bind plug, screws. I mean, just like almost like any little thing you can think of, zip ties. I mean, anything to kind of keep, like, kind of limp you back onto the trail, I guess to say, is pretty much in
Yeah.
there. The only thing I'm like short of, which I'm sure there's some guys out there that do this, I'm sure, is if you had some sort of like portable soldering iron in case like a lead got stuck or ripped off or whatever. But I mean, even at that point, I keep a pair of wire cut or wire strippers in my backpack. So if I had to, I could strip the wire back, get it together, tape it back together, and continue going if that were the case. But
Right.
that's pretty much what I carry. Extra batteries for my rig because I try to keep everything so like if I'm on the trail, I break down, I can fix it and still have a good time. If it's that catastrophic of a failure, I'm just going to pick the thing up and go back to the truck because I'll keep bigger parts back there. And if it's that bad, I'll just, this is why I normally bring more than one rig to an event. I grab the next rig, head back out, leave the broken rig back in the truck, and then you have something to work on when you get home from the event. But that's pretty much what my backpack consists of. And then obviously, packing water, snacks. I keep a cooler. Um, I actually use my Canyon 35 quart in the bed of my truck now all the time ever since I picked that thing up, and I'll just you know, pre-chill it, throw all my stuff in there,
Yeah.
and I'll just bring out like a snack and some water, and then I have refreshments to go back to when I'm done scaling. So, but yeah, that's pretty much what my gear consists of. So, what do you have in or your gear?
Well, actually, before I start on that, I had a question for you. Like, how ready to go are you at like a moment's notice? Like, do you pretty much like just grab, your backpack, your rig, and your radio, and you're out the door? Or I mean, do you keep it pretty much like a go bag, or how do you do that?
Well, I guess you could say my backpack is my go bag. If I were to grab my backpack, batteries, a rig, and a remote, I'd be good to go. I couldn't tell you how well those batteries would be charged because I typically charge batteries the night before. I don't leave my batteries charged. Like I use them when I'm done using them. I put them back in the case because I keep mine in an ammo box. Uh, and that's so like I just and I can kind of see, hey, I used this one last time. I know it's probably close to dead, so I'll use that as a backup, and I'll bring this one because I never even touched it, but it's been a couple weeks since I've charged it, so that's kind of like how I kind of run my operation. So, but for the most part, it's like grab all that stuff and go. I don't really need too much preparation. I don't need to be like, oh, I need all this stuff, but if you the most like I guess prep I ever take on any of my events or some of the bigger ones in the summer, like if I like when I go to Axial Fest, that's a little more thought out because you're going to be there a lot longer. It's a little farther away, so it's not like you're just going to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to be back in a few hours. Or at the end of the day, it's like, okay, I'm going to be back in a couple days. Same thing as if I was going to Proline by the Fire, I definitely, you know, pack more stuff or think out my pack, and have everything ready so there's you're not forgetting anything. Um, or if it's obviously going to be, you know, if you see that the weather conditions are going to change, we've had events where they say, "Oh, it might rain." So yeah, so I'll bring a couple. I'll bring my waterproof pants and my jacket and all that stuff, and a bag for my remote. There's always those variables, but to answer your main question,
Hmm.
it's you know almost at a moment's notice I could just head out to an event.
Nice. That's a good way of doing it. I was just curious. Like, I'm terrible when it comes to charging batteries and stuff. Like, I mean, in the summertime, I pretty much crawl at least one day every weekend, sometimes depending on workload, like work a weekend or whatever. But for the most part, I go so much that I just kind of leave everything charged. And
Hmm.
I know you're not supposed to, but I've had like really good luck as far as like batteries go because I definitely do not take care of my batteries the way that I'm supposed to. But I've
Oh, you mean like
I've
the
had decent luck.
you mean like the whole decharge stuff?
Yeah, or not charging them until it's like time to like use them again and stuff. Like I'll like charge them and just leave them that way it's all ready to go. But that, like I said, that's only because in the summertime when it's nice, I try and go as often as I can. But no, like when we do comps and stuff, I've got like a big like racing like pit bag, like roller bag, and it's kind of like just a big canvas box with sliding drawers and stuff, and it's probably like 3 feet by 14 inches deep by probably 18 tall, and I keep that like in the back seat of the truck at comps and stuff because it's I usually don't break, but like more or less I do it because I don't want somebody's day to get ruined by having some sort of mechanical failure, and so I pretty much like bring a hobby shop with me everywhere that I go when it comes to stuff like that. But so I've got that when I go do trail runs or whatever, I usually will like leave it at home, but yeah, if I know there's going to be a lot of other people around, I'll take that. But I've got a backpack that's like a black like tactical backpack, and it's got those like the what do they call it,
Oh,
molly
the Molly straps.
yeah, it's got those all over it and some velcro and stuff, but it's like if I had to describe the size, it's probably like a medium sized backpack, but I've kind of got everything in it split up into containers, kind of like what you were talking about, but it's depending on what I'm doing will kind of determine like what all's in it. So I almost always have like my hydration pack in it because I drink tons of water, and so I'll have that, which that kind of adds some weight and a little bit of bulk. It kind of makes the if you have the pack pretty full, it makes the part that makes contact with your back kind of a little uncomfortable because when that water bladder's full, it's like kind of pushes out the middle of the bag. But
Yeah.
I've got that I keep so like okay, so if I'm gonna do a comp, a lot of our guys will take a backpack with them when we do our comps because like I said in the last episode, they're usually around 30-31 gates, sometimes more. The course is 45 minutes to an hour to finish most of the time. Like that's a pretty good average is how long the course will take to complete. um, if you have a trail repair during the course of the event, it's it costs you points. If you have to go back to the car, it's a DNF. So basically, like you have to keep because that's the thing. We're trying to keep it kind of scale and like if you're out on the trail wheeling, you have everything there to fix it right there. So we encourage people to carry like whatever parts they might need. So like for a comp, I'll put like very minimal stuff in my backpack. Like I'll take everything out except for like I have a main trail keg, which is kind of shaped like a water bottle, and it's weather resistant, and it's got a cap on it that has a magnet in it to so you can flip it over and put your screws and stuff in it like you were talking about with that magnetic mat. It's like that's in the lid, so when you flip the lid over, it's actually like a little like parts dish that's magnetized, so that's pretty cool. And then it's got like a little like tool wrap inside, and I keep just basic stuff in that, like a multi-tool, like a one of those multi-hex drivers. You just put the different bits in. I've got one of those. I've got a Leatherman in there just because I've found that it actually is pretty handy. Um, Pair of scissors, zip ties, a cheap like RTR servo, to just for whatever if somebody needs it or if I happen to need it. Um, so my setup for comps is pretty basic. Um, but for trail runs and stuff, like most of the trail runs that we do, around 4 miles or so, seems to be about the distance most of them have been lately. And so for those, I take just about everything. Like I've got a little pouch that all like my camera and equipment, like my GoPro stuff fits in. I put that in. I've got a parts tray with a bunch of other stuff in it, like uh, spare driveline pieces, steering knuckles, C hubs. I'm definitely going to put bearings in after you had said that. I can't believe that's something that I hadn't thought of, was packing around spare bearings. So I'm definitely going to do that. I do have Loctite in there, so that's good. A little assortment of screws and body clips. Um, I carry a bind plug too, just like what you were saying, extra receiver. Um, so for the longer events, I kind of like take stuff out and put stuff in, depending on, if I'm out. So like even if I'm just out by myself, I'll take just about everything because I pretty much plan on being gone at least, like half the day if I'm out doing trails and stuff. So I kind of just switch everything around. I've got a little flat tool holder, like one of those flat dynamite like tool kits. It's like 25 bucks or whatever, and it's got nut drivers, Phillips, Allen's in it, and then a little like ratcheting screwdriver
You
handle that
know,
goes with it.
I think I have that same exact one. Does okay, when you put the attachment in there, does it keep sliding down the thing? But like if you pull it back the other way, you have to pull the hand, like you have to pull the end down.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
got
like
that.
locks.
Yeah, I got that same one.
Yep.
It gets frustrating
Yeah, so
because there's been times where you need that thing extended because like if you ever try to take like a spur gear cover off, like especially like the axial one, when
oh my
when
god,
everything's
yeah.
there, you got to like have like the thing extended all the way, and if you put too much pressure, it starts sliding down, and you're like, ugh, and you got to like take it apart again. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, been
And you're
there.
like threading it through like between the shock towers and stuff to get the upper ones. The
Yep.
bottom ones you're like trying to go in between the axle and the links and the
Yep.
drive line to try and
Hmm.
get in.
Hmm.
And yeah, I didn't for that reason I didn't run a spur cover for a really long time, but I recently just switched back. But I think one of the biggest things that I carry, and this is gonna sound nerdy, but like I have a lot of first aid stuff in my backpack, and mostly it's because I fall down and get hurt a lot because of my leg, and so like I've got a pretty extensive first aid kit, and plus it's like better safe than sorry. I mean if somebody gets hurt out on the trail, or like there was one run that we went on, a kid got stung by a bee, and so I mean it's good to have stuff like that with you. So I have all of those. For trail runs, in case something happens or I get lost or anything like that, I've got a little pill bottle full of, since they're waterproof, full of matches. I've got a little tiny like space blanket, little pouch that folds up so that if you got to camp out or whatever, you're set. I keep my headlamp in there for trail runs. Um, what else? The first aid kit is probably like one of the most like overlooked things. Like I should probably have snacks or granola bars or something in there. I used to, but I don't. In the wintertime, I keep those little uh, cheap little like hand warmer pouches that are just ridiculous and stay hot for like 9 hours. So I've got those because that's pretty much necessary if you're going to be crawling in the winter time here.
Oh
So
yeah.
I've I have that. Trying to think what else. Oh, roll of toilet paper. I've always got a roll of toilet paper in case nature calls. That, and there's like one of the places that we're at like has actually two have outhouses, which is really nice. But it's kind of a good idea to have toilet paper. But what I think one of the coolest things that I've got, and I've only used it once, and that was at the last Axial Fest I was at, which would have been 17. Um, Altra, our shoe sponsor, they have the most badass little like rain jacket, and it folds up to where it's like about the size of a wallet and maybe like 3 times as thick. Really small, doesn't take up a lot of room in your pack. It even folds itself into like a little fanny pack thing. If you weren't wearing a backpack, you could just have it around your waist. But it's more just like a rain shell. It's not really insulated or anything.
Yeah.
But what's cool about it is the back of it closes with Velcro, so you can actually put this thing on over your head, over your backpack and everything, and so it's actually like opened around your pack and then fastens back down, so your backpack like sticks out through the coat.
Oh,
It's
that's pretty
really,
cool.
really a yeah, it's a cool setup. So I keep that, and it's got like a hood on it with some like really nice tight elastic and stuff, and so I keep that in there. Haven't had to use it in the wintertime. I'll have like gloves in there too, some really like thin gloves just to mostly just kind of hold the hand warmers to my hands. I'll like stick the hand warmers in my gloves and then
Yeah.
drive that way. But really, I think that's about it. Oh, I have those like little bracelets that um, look like a hair scrunchie, and they're for repelling insects. I've got those. Those actually work really, really well. I don't know if you've ever used them or not, but like we get
Yeah.
like crazy like mosquitoes here and stuff. But those work good. I used those at Axial Fest too last time I was there. I'm pretty sold on those. Those seem to work really well.
Yeah, they do.
I I don't have sunscreen or anything like that in there, but I have sunscreen and bug spray in my back or in my big bag, and like I know when we're at like trail runs or comps and stuff, when we do like a drivers meeting beforehand, I'll like take them out and like put them on the tailgate of my truck so that if somebody wants sunscreen or bug repellent, it's there. So just little stuff like that. Like I think most of the stuff that I carry around for the most part is more for other people than it is me, because like I'm pretty lucky. I don't have a lot of mechanical failures, and I'm pretty gentle on my rigs, so it's pretty much just most everything I have is to make sure that everybody else can kind of keep going and enjoying their day. So it works out good. But I don't know, my backpack, I've never weighed it, but with everything in it and full water bladder, it's fairly heavy, but not to where you're like ruined by the end of the day. But I don't know. I always thought this would be a cool thing to do, is like go out and do like a simulated, like, I don't know what you would call it, like basically pretend you're like lost in the woods and stuck and you got to stay overnight. I always thought it'd be cool to do something like that, where basically you go somewhere, and if you're over it or decide you can't hack it or something happens, you can leave. But I would like to go somewhere and just rough it out in the woods, like I was lost, stuck, and see if everything I have is substantial enough to get me through the night and keep me warm and everything else. So that's something I've kind of been kicking around thinking about doing one of these days. It's just the
Yes.
only thing is like mountain lions and cougars and stuff though up here, so that's something to kind of be mindful of.
Yeah. Well, so it's like you're the RC guy that meets like prepper. Like I don't know how much
Right,
of our
yeah.
audience actually knows what a prepper is. But like a prepper is somebody who prepares for, whatever it is, your choice, natural disaster, catastrophes, whatever it may be. So you try to stay prepared, or as prepared as one can physically be in an event any of that would happen. The difference is you're talking about like actually applying that, so that way you actually can use it and get like a taste of it, which is good because I used to watch the show. I know this is going to go off topic, but ish. I used to watch the show called Preppers or Doomsday Preppers on, I think it was
Hmm.
National Geographic,
I
and
think so, yeah.
basically that's what they would do. They'd have their little plan, and they'd all have different things. Like one's like, oh yeah, I'm preparing for nuclear fallout. I'm preparing for uh, you know whatever the monster tsunami to come wipe out half this United States, or oh I'm preparing for terroristic threats or whatever. And they'd have their little how they're prepping. Whether it be they got a shelter, bunker, their bug out bags, their gear, and some of the families would actually. mimic those scenarios to make sure that they knew what to do when, you know, when it actually happens, when it hits the fan, so they can,
Yeah.
figure it out. It's kind of cool. And the reason why I didn't really mention the medical and stuff is, I mean, you're a little smarter than I am. I probably should carry the stuff on me, so like when you're out on the trail and it happens, you can actually do something. The way I usually set up my trucks, because I'm kind of like that prepper mentality, I guess you could say, is my trucks kind of already have all that. So it's like they got my first aid, they got your basic aspirins and all that stuff, and toilet paper and miscellaneous tools and stuff of that nature for that reason. Like, you're stuck out, you got an extra sweatshirt, you got your, like you said, like a space blanket or something. That's all kind of set up in my truck, so I didn't go that into depth on that. But being prepared, because what we're doing is going out in the wilderness. We're not urban.
Yeah.
We're not urban crawling. We're not crawling at the mall. We're not crawling at Starbucks. We're out in the woods and the mountains, and things can happen. So it's definitely
Yeah.
something to be aware of. And it's funny that you mentioned the thing. Well, not funny for that person, but saying that somebody got stung. That actually is something that I think everybody should throw in their first aid kit, is a little thing of meat tenderizer, because I don't think people realize that that's a good little trick. You get stung by a bee, throw a little meat tenderizer on there. It helps. So, uh,
Yeah, that's true. If I was really smart, I don't know if you need a prescription for them or not, but like another good thing to have, just especially if you're with like a big group of people, because like our first trail run that we had this year, I think like 27 people showed up. But like if you could get your hands on like an EpiPen or something like that, would probably be another really good thing in case you or somebody else has some gnarly reaction to something, or that's probably a good idea too.
yeah, honestly, I don't know how that works, because like I know with bigger, um, I guess, events or bigger organizations or whatever, I think if you have medical on hand
Yeah.
for that, I think they're trained to have all that, and it's in their, you know, what is I'm looking for? It's in their description or their job title, so that's probably why they have it.
Right.
I don't think your average Joe can just go out and get an EpiPen unless you, or like you said, prescribed one. So I don't know. I
Yeah,
mean,
like if you're allergic to bees or peanuts or something.
it definitely be good, but I think that also goes, hand in hand with people that, like, if you know that you have something, kind of be prepared and bring that with you just in case. I think there was an event 2 years ago now, I want to say, maybe, um, where we were out at the event, and I guess the person forgot to bring their insulin, and they're diabetic, and they started having, issues out on,
Oh,
and we were so far away that, like, the closest place, was like, you know, 30, 40 minutes away before you can actually get anything. So, you had to do the whole, like, certain sugars, and do you have this, do you have that, but, like, you know, we're not saying that everybody needs to be prepared for that kind of situation if it should arise, but some of the people, if you have certain situations or issues, you should kind of be a little more prepared and have a little extra, is what I guess I'm trying to say. And I'm not trying to,
yeah,
like I said,
exactly.
and I'm not trying to sound like mean or like a dickhead about it. I'm just saying, when you have something like that, you should be pretty, on top of it. Uh,
Oh yeah.
like, I know people that are super, like, I mean, they stare at poison oak and they get it. So
Right.
they do everything they can to stay away from it. They're well aware of their surroundings, and then there's other people that are pretty careless and they just, like, trample through everything, and then they start breaking out. And they're like, "Well, I don't understand what's going on." So it's just kind of be aware of your surroundings, and kind of just like you said, be prepared. You know, it could be overkill. You could think it's overkill, but sometimes that one little thing will be the time that or that one little thing will be the thing that saves your life, or it'll be the thing that saves the day, or just even helps you out of a pinch. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and especially because I mean, I actually do like go out by myself quite a
Mhm.
bit, just because it's I don't know, it's just nice. I mean, I like going and crawling with friends and stuff, but at the same time, like I really dig just getting out and doing it by myself and everything. Like that's something that I really enjoy. But there was something else that I was looking at too. It was there's a lot of really small for backpacking and whatnot. Portable emergency shelters. So it's like basically like a little tiny one person like pup tent, you know, that's
Mhm.
made out of mylar or something. So that'd be kind of like another cool thing to try out. But what was making me think about like kind of doing like a dry run of like getting stuck in the woods. About 20 years ago, I used to work at a RV dealership, and that's one of the things we would do with first time RV owners is we would tell them like, okay, here's what you do when you get home, stay the night in your driveway in it, and have a notepad and basically like write down everything that you didn't think of that you'd realize that you would need, and do that before you go out. And that's kind of what I was thinking with, with having your backpack and everything is like go out and just make sure that you can hack it. And I think too that if you did find yourself in a situation where you were stranded out somewhere and let's say you hurt yourself or you have to like stay the night somewhere, I think it would probably help eliminate possibly a lot of panic
Mhm.
too, because you've already practiced that situation and you know what to do. And I think it would kind of take some of the edge off knowing that, okay, I've done this before. I'm going to get through it. It's not a big deal. I can tough it out till morning or whatever. So, I mean, one of the things that made me think about it is like I mean, for one, with like my ankle and my leg the way it is, it doesn't take much to jack it up. But two, like I've got a shoulder that likes to dislocate all the time now, and so there's a very real possibility that if I slip or fall wrong, I'll pop my shoulder
Mhm.
out. And like I kind of know how to get it back in, but just in case you don't, like it's a good idea to have stuff there. Make a sling, whatever you got to do, and it's a good idea. So I mean, it's overkill for like a comp or whatever, but for trail runs, I really think it's one of those things where depending on where you're going, you kind of just can't be like too prepared, like just
Yeah, exactly. And
have everything that you need.
but it's kind of like what I was saying. You some of the stuff you're saying is tailored to like I was saying earlier, your needs. You know what could happen. To pre-existing conditions. So it's like be a little more prepared for that. You can never be really too prepared. But at the same time, the other hard part too is I'm not sure about all the areas where you go. I know it is hard for some people, especially in this day of age of technology, is sometimes we go to these places and there's no cell reception. So
Yeah.
so getting any kind of immediate help rather quickly is, it could be stressful and it could be scary for some people. So it's always
Oh, I have
go ahead.
Sorry, it just reminded me. I was gonna say just because of that reason, I forgot. I also have a pair of two-way radios that I take with me too. So like if we have a big group out, like one person can have one in front and one person can have one in back. Or if you do get hurt, you can try and because I think it uses same airwaves as like CBs or something like that. So, I mean, you probably might be able to find help or get an emergency channel. I can't remember what it is, if it's like 9 or whatever the
Mhm.
emergency channel is, but that's kind of another good idea too if you're somewhere where there isn't cell reception. Like here we're pretty lucky cuz honestly like everywhere we go seems like I have better cell reception there than I do at my house. So, it actually works out pretty good. But yeah, I mean it. Like one of them is like there's a cell tower right next to us, so you always have awesome service. It's up at the top of one of these mountains that we go to. But I don't know. I think two-way radios might be kind of pushing it a little bit, but like I said, better safe than sorry.
Not really, because what I started carrying, just because I've had, I guess, for lack of better words, crappy experiences with the two-way radios. So you get interference, or you get other people, on the same channel that you're on, and they start messing with you. So I kind of got away from that, and what I use actually is it's by Bofeng, Baofeng, Bofeng. Um, it's like a mini ham radio. It's an actual radio where you can punch in the frequency.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, it's kind of similar to the same stuff that uh, I know Axial uses at Axial Fest, except they use what's the company with the blue
Oh,
radios?
rugged.
Yeah, Rugged Radios.
Yeah, rugged radio.
They
Yeah.
actually use those. If you it, I just honestly I couldn't really fathom spending the $150-ish for a radio. I'm sure it's really good
Yeah.
quality, and I'm sure they work way better than mine. But I found that if you buy the $50, or not even that, it was like $30 for the Bofang radio, and then you get I forget who makes it, but somebody makes this extension antenna, and you put that on. It screws on right in place of the stock antenna. You get pretty good distance with that. Actually, back to the whole prepping thing, me and Michelle's dad actually each have one, and we've tested it like when we were traveling up to Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
We left like 10 minutes apart. Like he stops a certain amount of times, and I stop, and like we were probably within a couple miles of each other the whole way up there, and we could hear each other just fine. So, and
Really?
yeah, and they don't, so they're a little bit they they have a little bit better distance than the 2A radios. And honestly, like I said, you could actually program your own thing. You can say, hey, I'm going to be on channel 132.015, and as long as you each have that in when you're talking, you can you can pick each other up. But it's like also the same thing. You can actually, I think you can actually radio out to the like you said, the distress channel or the whatever the help channel is, if
Mm-hmm.
need be. But yeah, that's another thing. But I usually, like I said, that's another thing I just kind of naturally keep in the truck, uh, just because you never know what you're gonna need. So, and then I guess the other thing too, and not to like totally like scare everybody, because I'm sure like talking about all the doom and gloom and disasters and carrying everything, um, is I guess, and I know it's hard when you're in the moment, is just like some people learning, I guess you could say, crowd control, or how to control emotions, because like there's certain things like that'll happen, and instead of everybody panicking or whatever, um, kind of it's good to have if there's somebody there that actually can control everybody and kind of be like, hey, look, we all need to calm down. This is what's, because I'm not going to say the name or what event it was. I'm sure we have listeners that know exactly what I'm talking about. But about 3 years ago, we went to an event somewhat locally to me, about an hour out, and it was a public park, and we were all crawling there, and one of the kids had climbed up one of the formations. Well, they didn't pay attention when they were coming back down. They weren't aware of where their footing was and everything, and they thought they were on the same path that went up, and actually the path they were coming down went to like a 12-foot drop off, and
Oh.
they climbed right off the edge and flat down to the rock. And it was actually a pretty stressful and scary situation for that child's parents, and not only for them, but for the people putting on the event and the bystanders, because no one wants to witness somebody fall. Nobody wants to witness somebody get hurt, and especially when it becomes a child too.
Oh yeah.
That makes it even worse. So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's just one of those things, you know, if somebody is able to kind of like control everything, and luckily the people we were with, they did a really good job of saying, hey, look, we need to give him some room. We need to get medic over here. Nobody touch him. Let him just, like comfort him, but don't touch him because, if he has internal bleeding, we need a medical professional doing this, and so we were able to actually, the whole situation was handled really well, in my opinion. But
Nice.
it's just one of those things that you don't think that's going to happen, and you don't wish it, is going to happen, and then all of a sudden
Right.
it does, and kind of being prepared and knowing how to handle those situations is key to keeping everything kind of like under control. So you're not having mass panic and people running all over the place, and, you know.
Yeah, no,
So,
that's actually a really good idea. Oh, actually, you know what? I just remembered there's like one other like thing that I've got that I take with me sometimes, and I've done it for just quick trail runs, like Axial Fest when you go out and just like do one trail at night or something
mhm.
like that. But in the who turned me on to this was Ty Campbell from Tekin. He had one, but it's a tactical vest, you know, like a plate carrier,
Mhm.
and I use mine most of the time just for like photography stuff. You know, like I keep my camera batteries in there. I can store like my little tripod and stuff, and like so if I'm like shooting a lot of video and stuff, I use that thing. But it's cool because you can attach your hydration pack to it or whatever, and like Ty had like a little like clip on super bright clip-on LED flashlight like mounted to his shoulder and stuff, and all the mag pouches and stuff that are on them are actually awesome for extra batteries too. You know,
It's
you can fit tools in one, you can fit batteries in another. I mean, they're actually really handy. I mean, it looks like, you know, it's like, man, what's this, you know, like scale SWAT team, like what the hell is this guy? But like it actually like really it's a pretty convenient item. Like I've actually used it more often than I thought I would, and because it's kind of nice not having to deal with like a backpack and stuff like that. You know, if it's just going to be something quick, or if I'm following somebody around filming or something, you know, I use that. But that was another cool thing, and I think you can get them between like $30 and $40. They're not super expensive.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up because I noticed, especially with a lot of guys, well, not a lot of guys, but a handful of guys that do like the ultra, running and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The first person I actually noticed that actually had a setup like that was Gene Boyd. Um,
I was just thinking that too. Yeah.
one of our buddies, Gene. He had, and I don't even think it was a plate carrier. It was more of just like a chest rig, which it just had like
Mm-hmm.
basically it's a generic. I don't even think it has a thing for you to put the plate in it. I think it's more just like a kind of like a chest vest that has molly straps and stuff on it. And I mean, he had wrenches stuck in it. He had tools. I think I mean, anything I think he really needed to make an immediate fix on the trail because those guys are obviously competing for placement and time. And so, it's key to be able to just
Oh yeah.
stop right there on the side of the trail, fix it, keep going. So, but yeah, you brought up a pretty good point. I mean, and I've actually seen there's another guy. I think he's out of the Reno group because I noticed when we go to more Reno events, I see him out there. That's actually how he runs the whole course. He actually wears a chest rig like that, and it's got everything that he needs. It's got wrenches. It's got flashlight. And then that's how he runs it. He just doesn't bring a backpack. So there's multiple ways to skin a cat. It's just
Yeah.
find
It,
one that's pretty comfortable for you and that you're comfortable with, and you know go take it from
Yeah,
there.
no, exactly. And I think the biggest thing with those is like just finding one that's comfortable too. Like mine had like foam padding and stuff in it where the plates would normally go. Like I don't know if it was like that way for like airsoft or paintball or who knows. But anyways, I took all that out, like trying to get it lighter and a little bit more breathable. It does get a little bit warm, so I think like a chest rig might be better than like the full on like because this stuff's made out of like Cordura, which is just super super gnarly nylon. So it's it doesn't breathe really well, but in the weather like we've been having and stuff, it's actually a pretty ideal setup, really, if you can just you know get by the looking goofy part of it. They're actually really functional.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's a lot of people that I guess that don't realize that a lot of the tactical stuff you can get, or quote unquote tactical stuff you can get, is actually pretty handy when it comes to setting up your rigs. Like I said, my backpack is by 511, which is known for you know that kind of gear. It's geared towards
Hmm.
outdoorsy. It's geared towards tactical. It's you know because you can clip things to it. The other thing I wanted to come up with, and I've seen it before, and I know other people have made their own ways of doing it, but the cool thing I find with those backpacks with the molly straps on it is you can make a way, you can basically fasten your rig to the backpack. So like if you ever like had to
Mm.
walk off trail, you don't have to carry your
Yep.
rig and all that stuff. You can strap it to your backpack and you can walk out of there. So I think that's pretty cool
Yeah.
too. So
I have
um,
two carabiners on the back of mine, and I just clip them to either axle tube or the, steering link, the drag link on it. That seems to work pretty well, but it does get heavy, especially when it's on like your backpack. A chest rig wouldn't be as big a deal, but yeah, just like a decent, kind of medium sized carabiner is just perfect for carrying a rig on the back. And actually, I want to kind of do that when I go out next time to do a trail run, because I would like to have like my regular rig and then
mhm.
take the Yeti Junior side by side too, and just unclip it and rip it around while my other one's on my back on my backpack, and then swap them out. And I think that's kind of like a cool, like, convenient way of doing it. But I did a whole trail at Axial Fest with my buddy Jared and the guys from Pedals Bike Shop, and I did a whole trail with my rig on the back of my bag. So it wasn't all that much fun.
Yeah,
But it's also better than trying to like carry it, because at least your hands are free. So
And that's the other thing too, because you know anybody in this hobby knows that your rigs can get heavy, and it's like carrying an 8 pound weight with you everywhere you go. And if you think about it, like yeah, 8 pounds isn't much, but sit there and let your arm hang for 10 minutes with 8 pounds hanging at the end of it. Your fingers start to go numb. Then you got to switch hands, and you keep going.
hmm
So
and
it's
there's not exactly a lot of comfortable places to hold one of these RC cars
ex-
either. There's a lot of sharp edges and stuff like that.
exactly. So yeah, but I think that's pretty much covers everything on the being prepared. I mean, we don't want to like freak everybody out and be like, oh man, now you not just have to buy your rig and batteries. Now you got to buy all this stuff and this. Um, that's not what we're saying. We're just kind of talking about from experience stuff that we've brought that have kind of made it, more enjoyable for us.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the
Yeah,
day,
keep it safe and fun.
all this stuff is to keep it safe and fun. But yeah, so what else?
You know what? It'd be kind of cool if, like, I think once we post this up, it'd be kind of cool if we could get listeners to just comment on some of the different things that they carry too. I mean, because I
Yeah,
know there's stuff that we're forgetting, but it'd just be kind of cool, like for example, you bringing up bearings. I mean, it's so stupid that I never thought of that, but I mean, so I'd be really curious to see what the listeners out there happen to pack around with them, and what kind of little tricks or neat little things they've found that can cross over from hiking or backpacking and be applied to scale crawling and stuff. So
yeah. Well, that's the other thing too. On that topic, I'd like to try and see get a little more people engaged. I mean, we got some good engagement from some of this. Actually, we have one guy by the name of Wes Braswell, and I hope I said your last name correctly. He's been messaging us back and forth on Facebook, and we're getting some good response from him. So it's nice to see people interacting with what we're talking about, because this is fairly new for us, and we're still, as we're going, learning out, or figuring out the quirks and whatnot. Like we're still having technical difficulties with iTunes. Um, I Jay, I think you have more of a answer, or I don't know if answer is the right word, but you have more of an idea of what's going on with that, because I know you're trying to take on that. Um,
dude, they dissed us for the third time. Like, I don't know. I'm gonna have to like ask my kid or something. But I mean, like, it it didn't pass the review for a third time now, and honestly, I don't really know what else we could do. I mean, there's like music, there's content. Like, I mean, it's set up to where it's like any other podcast out there. So I really don't know what I need to do to make it to where they're satisfied with it. I don't know. Honestly, I mean, it would be sick to be able to go through them, but man, so many hoops already that I've had to jump through and had no luck. I mean, maybe like Spotify is a way to go or something. I don't know.
well, I think the other thing too is maybe just one of us needs to Google how to guarantee your podcast will be published on iTunes.
Yeah, there's probably like a whole checklist of stuff that we need to do, but
Probably, but
I don't know. It's a learning process. We'll figure it out. And just YouTube seems to be the hot one. I don't know. It's weird how it shifted though. You know, with like more on Podbean than last time, and then fewer on YouTube than
well,
what the first episode was.
the thing that I've noticed too is because I think some people maybe they find it on YouTube first, and like I was kind of saying when we discussed all that. So the cool thing about YouTube is, you don't need a subscription, you don't need to have any extra kind of whatever service or app or whatever to listen to it. You can just listen to it. But the problem with that is, like, I know with like iPhones and stuff, if my screen closes, the audio shuts down with YouTube. Anything else, it keeps going. So
Right.
some people, I think that might be the issue. So I know with Podbean, at least that's something, you download the app, whether it's Android, iTunes, Apple, whatever you want to call it, and you can kind of listen to it anywhere. Because that's how I personally listen to a lot of my podcasts is at work. I'll open up the thing, and when I can, I'll put my headphones in, and if I'm working on whatever it is, wiring up something or making cuts and whatever, ripping down material, I can listen and hear what's going on and listen to the podcast. So it's kind of cool. I'm sure there's other people in that scenario, and you can still continue on with your day. So you're not like having to sit there stuck, married to something, and still get to hear what you want to hear.
I actually downloaded a podcast for the first time today through Podbean because my son and one of the local fast guys here that we sponsor, the two of them have a podcast that revolves around the Northwest racing scene, and they they go through Podbean as well. And I was actually listening to their show on the way to the doctor's office today, so that was kind of cool. But I have heard like there's been some people that were like, yeah, I was gonna listen on Podbean, I clicked on the link and everything, but then it wanted me to like sign up and download all this crap, and I was like, yeah. So I mean, there's been a couple people that have kind of shied away from Podbean just for the fact that you've got to install something on your phone to hear it.
Yeah, and I guess that's another thing we can put out there, a feeler to our audiences. Is there another format other than iTunes? 'Cause we're still going to try and do iTunes because I know there's a lot of people that subscribe to podcast or iTunes. Is there another popular format, excuse me, or platform that you guys use that would be another way to get the podcast out there? Our goal ultimately is to get people to hear what we're saying, interact with what we're saying, and just kind of provide some sort of entertainment in the, scale RC world.
Yeah, I think that on the spot reporting or interviews is going to be something that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like I think that would actually be pretty neat. So I'm gonna actually this weekend. There's a new. I guess this kind of we can sort of transition naturally into upcoming events by doing it this way. But there's a new store down in Kent, Washington, which is like southern Seattle area, kind of on the outskirts there. Like Seattle's weird. It's basically one huge metropolitan area, and there's little cities all over the place, but you can't really tell because it's all just ran together, and there's no like, you're not driving 3 miles and there's fields and farms and stuff, and then you hit the next big town. It's like forever just buildings and city all over the place. And so Kent is like kind of the southern area, when you start getting down towards like SeaTac, like the airport and whatnot. But there, it's a brand new hobby shop. It's called King Crawlers. I don't know if it's the guy's name or if it's because it's King County. I don't know. But neat shop that just opened. Really neat. I've just seen the pictures, but a really cool looking indoor course. And this Sunday, I believe the entry fee is only like $15. They're having a swap meet, barbecue, and show and shine. And so we're going to go down there and participate in that and meet some new people and show them some products and whatnot from not just us, but some of our technical partners that we work with as well. So it should be a really fun time. But, if you're in the Pacific Northwest area, you know, somewhat close to Seattle, it would probably be definitely a cool one to check out. And when I'm there, I'm going to try and do a quick interview with the owner because this dude went all in on this place. I mean, I've been watching like the events and stuff that they've been having, like they've been doing comps and whatnot, I think monthly, but I mean, like they're giving away like rigs for first place in class. I mean, like they're doing some pretty unheard of things and throwing a lot of money at the local scene here. And so I think it's really important to kind of recognize them for that and do whatever we can to not just help them grow, but helping them grow is also going to help the hobby grow as well, which we all benefit from. And I think that it's going to be one of those places. If somebody goes down, they check it out, they're probably going to be just blown away by the course. I mean, they've got like a water feature that's done up with like pond liner and a pump and stuff, so there's like water on the course. I mean, they seriously went all out and like really did it up. So I'm super excited to go check that out and see what their place is all about. And then you have all the details on this, I believe, but Wes, his club is having an upcoming event as well, too, right?
Yes. So it is actually going to be June 28th, and it's going to be called the Northeast National Championship at Roush Creek Off Road Park in Tremont, Pennsylvania. So if you're in that area and you would like to attend, definitely look this up. They have an event link on Facebook, and maybe I gotta play around with it because I'm not that tech savvy. I could possibly share it to our page, but don't quote me. But if you just look up Northeast National Championship at Roush Creek Off Road Park, or it's abbreviated ORP in the title, you can find that out. You know, I'm sure it's going to be a good time. I mean, it's at an actual off road park, so I'm sure the terrain's going to be killer because that's anywhere
Oh, yeah.
someone would be taking their 1-to-1. So, which actually, on a side note, is kind of cool because that's one of our, I'm going to say it, our first, I guess you could say, East Coast, listener that's actually really um, creating some sort of dialogue and feedback with us, which we think is really cool. So it's always cool, you know, getting these messages. I know I usually check them when I first wake up or right after when I'm eating breakfast, and it's kind of cool to see like people like, hey, listening to this, it is kind of interesting, and they kind of bounce ideas back. So it was really cool that he had an event that he would like to share because I know just naturally from us being on the West Coast, we're gonna probably have more answers to West Coast events and whatnot that are coming up. But yeah, it goes out to anybody. If you have an event that you would like us to, announce to kind of get out there, if there's, you think more people hear it and want to head out, then definitely let us know.
Oh, there's another event that I just remembered. Jesse Ham from Sub Four
Oh
Skill
yes,
Crawlers is doing an event, and I'm trying to find the
it's the
information
it's
on
the
it.
it's the crawl for tiny humans, I believe.
Tiny
Yeah, I
humans.
think that's what it's called. I probably can find it. It's at Mount Diablo in San Ramon, California, and I believe it's the last weekend of April. We'll see. It'll be a race. We'll see who can find it faster.
Yeah, I'm looking here. I'm not having the greatest luck. Um, yeah, because I just sent him a bunch of raffle prizes and stuff for it too. And actually, no, he sent me a flyer, but it is on my.
It's right here. Tiny trucks for
Oh, okay, cool.
tiny trucks for tiny humans, aka Crawl for Babies, at Rock City Mount Diablo State Park in Danville. I said San Ramon. It's the same. It's the same geography area. One city over. But yes, and that is Saturday, April 20th. So in 2 weekends. So not this coming weekend,
Oh wow,
but the following weekend. So it's coming up,
that's coming right up.
and I believe. So let's see real quickly, and I can go back and I can jump back to the Roush Creek one, and I'll touch base on that one. But basically, what the event page says is there's going to be 100 gates. Course opens after raffle, so they're doing the course after the raffle. So they're doing raffle
Hmm.
first. That's definitely a different change of pace. And then they said all proceeds will benefit the March of Dimes. So this is another cool event that's actually going to benefit a cause or an established organization that I'm sure everybody's heard of, or at least on the West Coast has heard of, because I don't know how far back some of the stuff reaches. Because you know, I'm I get shocked sometimes when I talk to some people that are back east, and I'll mention a store or some sort of like organization, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And you're like, oh, it's so big over here. I thought it was a national thing. But anyways, 100 gates, all goes to the March of Dimes. And then that's pretty much it. It's he just wrote, "Help the tiny humans. Let's show our support for those future tiny truck builders and drivers. Reaching out for sponsors, and if you're interested, get a hold of them." But yeah, so it's pretty cool. So that's in 2 weeks. Maybe I'll make my way.
He actually bought a CR12 for one of the raffle prizes with his own money.
Wow.
Yeah, like that was like his one of his contributions or his big contribution to it. So I thought that was pretty neat. So it definitely sounds like there's going to be some good stuff. I'm kind of sneaky. Like when we do raffles and stuff, I do it last. That way everybody's kind of stuck there until the very end of it. That way, you don't have people just showing up for prizes and then bail out.
Yeah, true. That makes sense.
But it's kind of sneaky hidden agenda trying to keep them there.
Yeah, no, I get it because there's a lot of people that show up for the raffle, and that's what drives people to going. But I mean, you can't blame them. Who
Yeah.
doesn't enjoy winning stuff? I mean,
Yeah, no, that's true.
it's fun. When I
We had a barbecue at a park one time, and this guy, he's no longer in our club, but he showed up with like his entire family and like fed him and then dipped out. Like that was it. He came for the free food and left. I was like, oh, cool, okay, thanks.
Okay, so going back real quickly to that Northeast National Championship,
Oh yeah.
it's actually pretty cool. So this is going to be more of an actual comp, because it says there's going to be a pro, a sportsman, a mini, and a super class. They're also planning on doing a scale class and scale endurance run, but that's going to be, I guess, to be determined based on turnout, is what I'm guessing. Um, and yeah, so it looks like it starts. Oh, it actually might be a full weekend thing because it says June 28th at 8 a.m. and it ends June 30th at 6 p.m.
Oh, nice.
That's pretty cool. So
Yeah,
sounds like a
yeah.
pretty
They're making a production out of it.
yeah.
That's cool.
So it sounds like a pretty big one. Roush Creek Off Road Park in Tremont, Pennsylvania. So
Multi-day stuff's kind of fun because it feels like even bigger than it really is, I guess. Like when something's multi-day, it kind of has like that air of like feeling special about it, like it's a true like event or function to be at when it's like that, like it just, I don't know.
yeah,
I think a lot of that stems from like Axial Fest, like because like a couple days of having fun consecutively like that is pretty sweet. So I mean, I know that any chance that I get to where we can try and use that formula, for an event, uh, we try and do so. That way, it just feels more important than it really is, I guess.
okay. Yeah, I mean, the other thing too is I don't think people realize this too. I guess is like a not an attendee um, perspective, but as somebody who hosts this stuff, if you see the people that are putting on these events, any event. a day event, a couple hour event, a couple day event. Just take the time to show them some appreciation and thank them because they're putting on something for people to go to, and there is a lot of work that goes involved into having these events. Um, Not only just organizing the event, but legal um, feats that they have to go through just to make sure that this can go on without being any kind of issues. So just a little PSA to thank your event hosts that put this on for you because they're allowing us to go out and enjoy the day or weekend or whatever
Yeah, definitely.
time it may be.
Absolutely.
But
And that's always really gratifying too from like a organizer standpoint. Is like when people come up to you afterwards or they post on Facebook like, "Man, that was awesome. Had so much fun. Thank you again for all your effort and whatnot." Like that that is like a pretty cool feeling. When people take the time to you know show their appreciation for the time that you spent on doing something. So that's pretty neat, and it's even if it's just one or two people that like say something, it still means an awful lot because there is a lot of planning and hard work that goes into this stuff that a lot of people don't really see. So
yeah,
it is pretty cool if you take the time to do something like that.
yeah, and it's because some of the stuff like I mean some of the get-togethers, they're a little more spur of the moment because that's why they're called a get-together. They're kind of like not really a last minute, but like a simpler event. The more actual events where they have raffles and whatnot, or you know, the big attendance, those ones actually take months to plan them out, and it can be stressful for some people. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
It
yeah. Um, that's really about it. Do we have any scale news this week?
No, because I dropped the ball and didn't catch the Axial Fest broadcast today, so
Yeah, I actually missed that one.
don't really have anything there.
Yeah, I missed that one. The only thing I saw from
Oh.
Axial, what was that?
Mm-hmm.
No, I was gonna say the only thing I saw from Axial was from today that all the parts for the Yeti Junior, all the hop ups are available.
Oh,
I
good.
I don't know where they're available at. I haven't had a chance to look to see if RPP or A Main or um, Horizon actually has all the stuff. I'm assuming they all will, but they look pretty cool. So I'm gonna have to get my hands on some of it because I like the color. Everything's like I call it axial gold. It's not really gold. It's not really bronze. It's like something else. So I'm trying to think of what it's like. It's in between bronze and gold, so it's kind of cool. So I think it would look really good on the all black with the bronze kind of wrap that it has. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I might be changing up my wrap soon, but I don't know. We'll see.
There's something else I was gonna ask. I'm drawing a blank here now.
Scale
Oh,
news.
duh. Yeah, falls under that. So they're teasing us with another new rig.
Yeah, it. Let's do a little game right before we call it for this week's episode. Do you have any idea of what you think it might be?
Hmm.
Because I know I
Well,
have my idea, but I want to see what your idea is first.
the the one showing the pile of parts didn't really give me a whole lot of clues. Um, the
Interesting.
one where it's got the action figure pulling the cover up somewhat, like the tarp that's over it. Looking at the wheels, it appears that the wheels look kind of almost like military or like really like utilitarian. So it's making me think either Unimog or a Mighty FC rig. Um, if it's the Unimog, I'm going to be really curious to see if Axial jumps on the Portal bandwagon or if they're just going to stick with the tried and true, AR-44s and go from there. So it'll be interesting to see. Part of me is kind of hoping that it's a Unimog. I think it would be really cool, and it's something different, and it would finally get all the guys to shut up that are going, oh great, another Jeep, so.
Well, I still think they're going to be able to say, oh, another Jeep, because I think it is the Mighty FC, because as a business standpoint, it makes sense to use something of a mold or a product that they already have released in the past, but that was a body they released that was never an actual rig. So it was a body that you
Yeah, they did
purchased,
like.
but you could. That was one of the few that they actually did that way. They did it with the Mighty FC, and they did it with the new Kaiser. Those two are
Yeah,
the.
and then the Chevy pickup too, right? The C10.
You're right. The C10 was another one because the C10,
Yeah, that's more recent though.
yeah, the C10 was another one, but the whole point is they already have, you know, those molds. They already have those bodies, so it would make sense to use something like that. So my guess,
Oh yeah,
based
because
on
those aren't cheap to make.
exact, so my guess is based on what we're seeing, and actually the pile of parts gave me a little more clue, and that's where my second, which you've already kind of touched on, the second thought is I think it's going to be a portal Mighty FC, and
Hmm.
that's my honest guess because if you look at the pile of parts, one of those looked like a C, like a C hub, but the C hub looked kind of the bottom looked kind of extended down, similar to like how Vanquish has it on theirs and how Traxxas has it on theirs, and basically any other portal, they do the very extended drop down C. Um, that's what it looked like to me. So that's my guess. And it might be the first set of axles, being the fact that all those axle parts were black. See, I don't think everybody realizes when you get like the ready to runs now, they come with the red diff cover and the red um, link slash shock mounts. And when you can actually go and order those exact parts in black. Well, the fact that you saw those parts in black already, I wonder if this is going to be the first axle configuration we see that doesn't have the trademark red diff cover and red shock hoop or the shock mount slash link mount.
That's true. Yeah. You know what's funny about the red stuff? My kid hates the red. Like that, I don't know why, but that bothered him so much that it had the red plastic on it, and I don't know if it was just because he felt it was like kind of too toyish looking or what, but I always thought that was kind of funny. It's like something that people either love or hate, but I just kind of remain pretty much indifferent to it.
Yeah, yeah, I could see it from like a scale point, like when you're trying to build a super scale rig. Those areas typically aren't colored like that, but what some people don't realize is the reason why Axial did that was to kind of highlight and show off the new parts because when they first released the AR-44, those were two big key factors that they were trying to, show off. Is that they changed
Mm-hmm.
the diff cover. It's got its own diff cover now. It's not like the two-piece original SCX-10 housing, and it
Right.
was no longer that really wide where you put the shock right next to each other. It's now the stack.
Mm-hmm.
It's now the stacked version. So I definitely think that that's part of it. So it'll be interesting though. I've heard rumors that they're announcing the body or what it's going to be tomorrow. So I guess
Oh.
we'll have some more stuff to talk about for next week. Um, but that's what I've heard. I don't know if it's true or not because I too missed the live. Um, I'm like I said, I'm not really into the whole like on top of the social media thing. So even though my Facebook alerts me when I'm on Facebook that they're going to go live or that they are live, I don't have the notifications on my phone to tell me, so I can't just whip open my phone. So, but it seems like for the foreseeable future, at least for the next couple of weeks, I guess they're going to be doing this every Wednesday. So I guess that's another thing to check out. Wednesday night at about 7 o'clock ish, 6:30, 7 o'clock. Um, they go live. Actually, I think it's 6 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah, I think it was too. Yeah.
But anywho,
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to look at the parts that picture then with all the parts stacked up in it. I'm gonna have to check that out because I am really curious about it. It'll be interesting to see.
yeah, it'll be interesting, but I have a feeling that's what it's going to be. But we never know. For all we know, they might do all that is a total, you know, throw you
Yeah, it
off, you know.
could be just a body. You know, I mean, it could be anything. So I don't know. I'm hoping for another rig just because. I mean, choices,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I think that'll be cool.
Oh, it'll be definitely cool. So, but I
God,
think,
there was something else that I was gonna ask too. Oh yeah, we were talking about the axles. Um, a, a guy asked me. I think it was Matt from A-Main asked me one day. He had asked if I had broken any of the original AR-44 housings, and I never have. And supposedly, that was the reason behind the new One Piece ones that are coming on stuff now.
I think it was the other. Well, I think you are kind of right. So when the AR-44s first came out, it never happened to me, but I had seen it on a lot of people, or not a lot, but like a handful of people at events. They've either said or I've witnessed it, where the new axle or the AR-44s that basically were in the kit version, when the uh, Cherokee first came out. And what's interesting is I don't know if anybody's actually picked up the RTR Cherokee lately, but the original RTR Cherokee and the original, which I don't even think they make anymore, the Cherokee kit, those axles were actually the I call them the multi-piece axles, where the C hubs actually
Mm-hmm.
bolted on. The
Right.
the knuckles obviously bolted onto that, and you actually, I think you did have lockouts in the rear. I could be wrong. Um, and it was a little more close to traditional axles, but I guess a lot of people, due to the fact of the design of the axle, they were snapping the axle tube. So then they came out with the one piece, which had that reinforced like truss that goes down from the center of the pumpkin out, and then they went to the one piece where the C's are attached to the end of the front tubes, and you already have that weird lockout thing in the rear to hold the bearing and
Mm-hmm.
everything in place. So I honestly think that idea is good to the point where, okay, you strengthened it up, but the only problem you've created now, because I've seen this a lot too, is with the new one piece axle housing. You snap the ears on the C hub, and that axle is basically done. You can't
Right.
you can't take it off, put a new one on. I mean, I'm sure if you got like uh, what am I thinking? Like a beef tube style setup, like if you had some sort of um, axle insert that you had to cut anyways, I'm sure you could get around it that way. You're still gonna have to buy new C hubs. You're probably still gonna have to buy new knuckles, but I'm sure you can get around and still use the same housings. But it'd be nice to see them have that truss reinforcement, but back to the original where that stuff bolts on and off. So that way, if you snap it, it's not that big of a deal. You just replace the ends
Yeah, it's
and you're back to running.
exactly.
So, because I feel it's one of the things that eats me up. I feel bad for this, even though it's not my fault. But we recently gave away that rig. 2 Chainz gave away that
Mm-hmm.
rig for the kid, and
Mm-hmm.
he got the wheel wedged and he snapped the ear right off. So
Oh no.
yeah, so I was like, oh, this sucks, because I wanted him to have fun and stuff. But his mom's been texting me. She said she's gonna. I think they're getting it all fixed, and I think A-Main is helping them out because they live up by A-Main, so that's kind of like their somewhat local hobby shop. So
Oh
so
nice.
yeah, so A-Main's gonna help them out. So um,
That's cool.
but yeah, so
I didn't care for him just because you can't like I like being able to clock the C hub so that you can get a little more caster out of it,
mhm.
which is nice for when you're side hilling and stuff. It's the only thing I don't really like about the the single piece ones is that you can't do that. That is kind of a neat, tuning option to be able to have, because that absolutely can make a difference, especially if you're running dual stage foams. You do, add more caster and run dual stage foams, and you don't have that massive tire roll, when you're side hill and stuff. So it does create a lot more stability and a lot more contact patch of the tire on the ground. So that's kind of a bummer. But I've been like hoarding the standard, the original multi-piece axle housings. I've got a bunch of those, and so I've already had guys talking to me about it, saying, hey, I've got the one piece ones. I'd like to get the older style. I'm like, I have some, so I'm just kind of sitting on them for the time being. The Truggy I'm building right now was the builder's kit, and it of course has the new one piece ones too, and that was my first time putting those together, and they were nice. I mean, it was nice and simple, and went together quicker. And
Mhm.
they changed the locker and stuff too. It looked like if I remember right, the pinion and the locker, or excuse me, the ring gear and the locker are both all one piece now, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, it's actually funny you say that because there's only one rig that I swapped out my like I swapped out the axles. Did I? No, I didn't even swap the axles out. The only because I'm trying to think because you know the problem of having so many rigs, you can't remember exactly which one turned into what. And
Right. Yeah.
because I know my kit turned into the black JK, which I put Curry's underneath it, and then my RTR, the original RTR Cherokee, turned into the flatbed Chevy. So that one has the original style axles on it,
Hmm.
the original AR-44s, but I've never opened it up, so I couldn't tell you what the gears were. I know that the gears in the Curries, no, so the Curries and those gears would be the same. I haven't opened up like the Deadbolt or my Honcho or any of those ones. I haven't opened up any of those axles, so I wouldn't be able to tell you what's in there or not.
Yeah, this was something that's pretty recent, I think, that they did, which was kind of interesting. But
Yeah,
yeah, no, I just thought that was kind of a interesting deal, because I haven't had any friends that have broken an AR-44. I myself have never done it. I've never seen one happen, but I don't know. I mean, I guess it was a problem that needed to be addressed, supposedly, but I don't know. It just struck me as kind of weird. That's why I was curious if that's something that you'd encountered or not, because I've never seen it.
no, honestly, the only problem I've ever broken, actually, I haven't even, it hasn't happened to me yet, which is like I always find really weird because I know I don't beat on my trucks, but I still drive them. But I've
Hmm.
been running, I mean, not just the Deadbolt, but I've ran a handful of rigs with the stock servo horn on it, and I haven't snapped it.
Yeah,
And I know
it's
there's
funny.
and I know there's some people that say that was the first thing they busted out of it, and then I know the other thing that a lot of people have busted was the panhard mount.
It took 2 years before I broke a panhard mount, one of the plastic ones.
Yeah,
I had my first SCX 10.2 for 2 years before it actually broke.
I haven't broken one. I thought I did when we were out at the SBC get together last year or the year before. Might have been 2 years ago, and it was back when it was still the Cherokee. Or no, that was my Honcho, so it was last year. The Honcho, I was going through, and there's a lot of driftwood, and I guess bouncing around, it popped the rod end over the screw on the axle side. So that when I saw the axle shift sideways, I was like, "Oh, there goes my panhard mount." I snapped it, and when I picked it up, I looked and I said, "Oh, no, the panhard mount's still there." And I was like, "Oh, it popped off over the screw." So I took the screw off and I pushed it back into place and put the screw back together and continued on.
That's on the side that's down by the
Yeah.
steering knuckle, right? Yeah, I've had that happen a couple times too. I ended up just sticking a flat washer underneath the screw, but yeah, I don't know how it gets torqued around the way that it does to where it pops that off, but it's a strange thing to have happen.
Oh yeah.
It's just funny, I've seen a lot of like hate towards Horizon and stuff on social media after the buyout and whatnot, and somebody had commented the other day saying that Axial's quality's dropped down and everything else, and it's like, man, I haven't seen any kind of a lack in quality that they had before prior to the purchase. I don't see it, and plus, to my knowledge, they haven't changed the manufacturing, the manufacturing facility, the factory. I think it's the same one that they were using, you know, after the first place had gone out of business, when they finally got back on their feet again and producing stuff. Um, I think they're, to my knowledge, are still using that same outfit. So I don't know. I mean, just I think a lot of these things that break on these rigs, you kind of have to just sort of take it with a grain of salt, or maybe this kind of sounds mean in a way, but like, if someone's talking about how something's shitty or it's breaking all the time, like, consider the source, I mean, we've all seen some pretty wild driving out there, and
Mhm.
it's like, dude, it doesn't matter what you have, you would have broken it regardless. Like, it doesn't make a difference, like, you drive like a maniac, and so, that's the price you pay. But as far as the quality goes, I mean, it's like, I haven't broken anything on the Venture yet. I haven't broken anything on the CR12 yet. My axial rigs, I think I've stripped out a plastic um, gear in the trans, like the very first rig I had, like first year when I first got into this. Um, and then, like I said, 2 years went by on our SCX 10 before the Panhard mount broke. So I mean, I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, I think they're pretty darn durable, and I don't really know what more you could possibly ask from these people. I mean, I, it's yeah, it's hard to get much better than they are.
Yeah, and maybe we can go further in depth on another episode about this. Because I gotta write down a few notes about some of this stuff. Some key points, because I know we're getting towards the end of this week's episode, and this could be a
Oh yeah,
this
we are.
this could be a whole nother this could be a whole nother hour segment. So maybe
Perfect.
we'll save this for
Yeah.
next week. But yeah, I definitely agree with you 100% on how they build these rigs. So um, yeah. So with that being said, is there anything else you'd like to add for this week?
Um. No, our club's got an event coming up on the 27th, but we got some time until then, so that's really, I mean, that's about it for the time being. I think we kind of covered everything that we possibly could for this week. Wasn't super eventful, but I mean, definitely talked about some helpful things with the, you know, trail packs and whatnot. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think that next one that'd definitely be a good thing to get into. And then you had mentioned something too about sponsorship stuff, so maybe we can
Oh
try
yeah,
and talk about those too.
we still have that conversation to talk about. Um, yeah. So if any of you guys out there can, guys and gals, if you can think of anything else or any topics you'd like us to talk about, feel free to message us on our Facebook page. And with that being said, that'll wrap up this week, and we hope you guys tune in for another week, and we will talk to you again next week.
All right, sounds good. Everybody have a fantastic evening and weekend, and we will catch you next week.